everybody's brain works differently, especially people who have brains like mine with ADHD and autism. Our brains work differently than other people's. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to kind of a special video that I just wanted to make, kind of talking about, because I've started to make at this point I've made 2 videos playing Animal Crossing in Japanese, and in the last one, I believe in both of them, but especially in this last one that I recorded, I mentioned that I wanted to kind of make a video talking about my language learning journey of Japanese, and kind of how I'm doing it. Because of my ADHD, I have to do it at this point I figured out I kind of have to do it in a specific way. And I just kind of wanted to make this video kind of talking about how I do it, and or am doing it, things like that. And kind of maybe a little bit of like my expectations of maybe how long it's going to take, or just kind of anything like that. If this video seems a little rambly, I don't prepare videos at all. Like, I mean, with video game content, you can't really do that, but videos like this, I don't prepare at all, because it makes it all like stunted and like it's just all tense and not like, yeah. It just feels too cookie cutter, which is exactly what it is. So if I get a little rambly, that's why. If this is not your type of content, you can go ahead and skip this video. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. I just wanted to make this for the people who are curious, or who end up being curious as to what I'm doing. So, let's get started here. If you're any of you who don't know, which will probably be most of you, I had a channel, well, technically 2 YouTube channels before. Well, a little bit of a difficult thing. I had a YouTube channel before that my wife and I were doing, where I also added in, it was like a Disney Parks channel, that we were doing up until 2 years ago, two and a half years, about 2 years ago now, almost exactly 2 years. I think it was 2 years ago in July. And along with the Disney content, for a while I was also doing language learning content, to like add some stuff to the channel. But then I started doing it on a separate channel, which was this channel, up until I decided, and then I stopped for, a really long time, a couple of years, and then, until I decided to start up doing video game content again. So that channel had been video game content, and then a lot of language learning stuff. I was talking about learning Japanese. I think I did some videos talking about learning German, because I like switched to that, and I talked about some of the issues that I had, different things like that. So I, like I said, rambly. So today I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do now, because before doing the other channels, I was really at a point in language learning where I was having a lot of issues, because it's really difficult for me with my ADHD to learn languages in the same way that other people do it. Like, even if other people are learning in, different ways, they're learning, some people are learning with the Ollie Richards story method rather than just doing like textbooks, and some people are learning by listening to music, mostly listening to music, rather than sitting down and doing the flashcard apps like Anki or anything like that, And so I won't necessarily do some of what I did before, which was like doing some like reviews of different apps and things. I do like doing that, and I mean, if you guys want to see that, then I'll go ahead and do that. But I will only do it if it is requested. It's not really something that I'm going to go out of my way to do, just willy-nilly. But I came to realize more recently, as I've been kind of getting back into language learning, which never really totally fell off. I was still always interested in it, and I would still do things like watching shows in other languages, in Spanish, German, or Japanese. Those are the kind of the 3 that I've tried to learn up to this point. And I would still do that every once in a while, especially with Japanese, because I love anime. And I have some anime that I really, really enjoy watching, and I've watched numerous times. Haikyuu, Sword Art Online. There's a couple more. Seven Deadly Sins is one of them. I can't remember all of them because there's a few that I've done it with. And so it never really fully fell off. Like I was still exposed to the language, but I wasn't actively studying because my ADHD wouldn't let me. I was just having so much difficulty with that, and I'm actually really hoping that with this video and just with the other videos that I make playing Animal Crossing and stuff in Japanese, and anything else that I do surrounding Japanese in the future on this channel, I'm hoping that it will kind of help any of you who also have ADHD like I do and are trying to learn languages. Now you can see the reflection of my ring light in my glasses, and it's just kind of made me giggle. But I'm hoping to be able to use this, or that some people, besides me, myself included, will be able to use the stuff that I am doing with Japanese right now, and apply it to maybe try to apply it to their own language learning, see if it works for them. Just because I know from personal experience how difficult it can be to do something like learning a language when you have ADHD, when your brain is moving so fast that you can't just sit there and study this textbook over and over again for hours a day. And yes, I know that that's not the only way that you can do it, but when you're doing something like that, you're studying a textbook, and maybe you're studying a textbook and then doing flashcards or something like that, so you have two different things. I know what it's like to not be able to do that because I myself did that. I'll actually have to pull those books out here. This bookshelf behind me, right here, this one right here, there is a shelf, this shelf here, where you can kind of see the tops of these bottles here, which I'll show here in a minute. That is mostly my language learning shelf. And on said shelf, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have about 12-ish textbook type language learning things. I have a bunch for Japanese, which I actually really enjoyed, and I might take a look through them again at some point. And here, let me actually pull these out. Or one of them. Maybe I can pull it out. We'll see. Let me take my headphones off here. There we go. I got it. So, but the one that I was using for a long time, and like I said, the one that I might go back to at some point just for some more kind of in-depth study, was the Japanese from Zero series. And again, for those of you who enjoy doing kind of the textbook style thing, this series is amazing. It is really good. It is textbook and workbook all in one. So there's like kind of the textbook portions like this, where it's just actually teaching you, here's how to use the, kind of build the language essentially. And then but then it also has the workbook portions where you're supposed to fill out your own stuff. And no, I did not get all the way to book 4. There's 5 total, plus then a kanji book, which I also have back there. I have all the way up to book 4. I don't have book 5 yet. I will probably get it at some point, but because I hadn't really been using it, I hadn't invested in the 5th one. And there are people who can use stuff like that and just solely that and learn the language pretty well. That didn't work for me, for my ADHD. And it wasn't until, again, more recently that I figured out that I just can't do any one way. So, with all that being said, here's kind of how I am doing things currently, and that seems to be working, and mostly in the fact that it is keeping me going. Because that's the thing, really. Whether you're using something like this, or whether you're using video games or stories or whatever, it doesn't matter how you're learning. I mean, as long as it's accurate information that you're getting, that's really one of the two things you need. You need the information to be accurate and correct, and you need the method that you're using to be interesting to you, because every person is going to be different in what interests them and in what way that they learn. Everyone learns it differently, and it has nothing to do with some people are visual learners and some people are auditory learners. It has nothing to do with that. It is just that everybody's brain works differently, especially people who have brains like mine with ADHD and autism. Our brains work differently than other people's. We cannot, or I won't say like we and as a general term. But as for myself, I can't be organized enough to just do a textbook thing. I had to figure out a different solution. So, and you may not be able to see some of this because some of this I'll have to show you I'll show you from my phone. So it may be a little bit blurry, or it may not just not work as well. But here's what I'm doing. So, the first thing that I'm doing, largely, at this point, I'm kind of, like I said, I'm kind of getting back into the swing of things. Is I am using an app that has gotten a lot of flack from a lot of people in the language learning community. I actually enjoy this app in a lot of ways. Now, I have made a video before about how I didn't like it. And actually, it's happened with a couple of different apps besides this. So, I myself have eaten my own words. And not necessarily made videos talking about how I've eaten my own words, because it didn't happen until more recently when I wasn't making videos. But the app that I'm talking about right now is Duolingo. And right now you can see I'm in section 2. That's actually one of the things I like. This is now, I don't know if it was before, but now it's split into sections. So you have the first section, which is Rookie, which I did complete. It did an update and then pushed me from section 2 back into section 1. I'm still trying to figure out what happened with that. But I was able to pass the test to get back up to section 2. So now I'm just going back through and making everything legendary again, which actually is proving more difficult this second time around for some reason. And so I'm wondering if they actually did change a little bit of like the difficulty and stuff, which is nice. But I used to hate Duolingo. I used to hate it. The only time that I would use it would be to dabble in new languages to see if I wanted to learn them. And that was the only reason that I was using it. And the only thing I was using it for. But now that I've gotten back into it, I actually got back into it because my wife started using it to learn Scottish Gaelic. And she has like a 200-something day streak. Mine is at 27 now. So I've been doing it for just under a month. I started it just like right at the beginning of June. Like as I'm recording this, it's June 27th. I have a 27-day streak. That's kind of funny. I didn't know that. Yeah, I just noticed that she had gotten back into it and she was doing really well, and she seemed to really like the way that they had updated it, and it actually started to work for her, and she was able to stay interested in it. Other than just that she's interested in the Scottish language, the Scottish Gaelic, the Irish language, like the kind of Celtic area languages, Scotland, Ireland. And so I kind of got back into it around the time that she did, maybe a little while after. I think she'd been going for like a month or two. And so I did it for a little while, and then I fell off again. But just this month, I started doing it a lot more. And what I noticed for me is that it actually worked really well when I was doing more than just doing one lesson in a day, so that I could keep my streak up. And I have nothing against that. If that's the way that you do it, that's the way that you do it. Can you learn a language in 5 minutes a day with like Duolingo, Babbel, something like that? Absolutely you can. It's going to take a long time because, learning a language takes hours, but you still can do it. Instead, it's just going to take longer. But for me, what I noticed, and my wife can kind of get away with doing 1, maybe 2 lessons a day, and she's retaining a lot of what she's learning. For me, I started to notice this month when I started doing it again, that the times that I was doing the best and retaining the most was when I was doing numerous lessons in a day. And essentially what was happening is I work overnights, and so every time so I would do a lesson before I went to work just to make sure I had my streak. And that was really what that lesson was for. But then during work, we have 2 15-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch. So what I was doing for a couple weeks was every single break and then every single lunch, I was spending those 15, so a total of an hour, just sitting here. Commute time, take that off, whatever. But I was spending that time that I was taking breaks and stuff, doing nothing but sitting there and doing lessons on Duolingo. And honestly, I would do it anytime that I was sitting down, like going to the bathroom or something like that. I would just pop my phone out, do a lesson real quick, and then go, and things like that. But I was doing anywhere from 10 to 25 lessons, /reviews /whatever, in a day. And so I was I was doing a lot, but it was working. And so I just kind of kept going with it. So I'm doing Duolingo. that's kind of, at this point, that's kind of my main, the main crux of how I'm learning. But, and I'll actually show you this too. I have a folder on my phone that is labeled language stuff. And I have another folder that's labeled Japanese specifically. So I'll show you my Japanese folder first. In my Japanese folder, I have 6 apps. I have Easy Japanese News, Japan Radio, NHK Easy Japanese News, Satori Reader, and Scritter. The only one that I really use from that is Satori Reader, which I will get into in a minute after I show you the other folder, which is called Language Stuff, which I have these. How many is that? That's 12. Yeah, there we go. 12. 13, 14, 15. I have 15 apps in there. So, and some of this is from different languages too. So I have Anki, Bluebird languages, which I actually kind of enjoy, but I've discovered isn't always the most accurate. They're working on that, and I think it might be better now. I haven't used it in a long time. Duolingo's in there. The Fluent Forever app, which is kind of hit or miss with me. I might try it again, maybe not. Just a Collins German dictionary, HelloTalk, italki. There's one that's specifically for Spanish called Langlandia. That's a really interesting concept. It's a video game made for language learning. So that one's kind of interesting. Language transfer. This thing called Lingo Legend. I don't remember that one. I haven't used some of these apps in a while. Link. I will get to that one later as well. Mango Languages, Memorize, NDR2, which is a German radio app, in NDR2. And then Speakly. So, let's get into the 2 other apps besides Duolingo that I use. Which is, first of all, because I'm already in this folder, I will talk about Link. And I had made a video about Link before, back on the other channel, the Unhinged channel, the Disney Parks channel that we've been doing. And I had been talking about, no, I don't want to do that. Sorry. I had been talking about how I didn't like Link anymore, and I wasn't going to use it anymore. I have resubscribed to it and have kind of started using it again. And the reasons for it don't matter. Your mind will change all the time, and like you'll kind of figure things out as you go, which I have. And so, Link is interesting, and it is a good app. I'm not going to knock on Link at all. But it's one where you can go in and like I have, say like Harry Potter right there. And it literally turns the entirety of the first book. As far as I know, they only have the first one. The first book of Harry Potter that's written in Japanese, and turns it into a language learning thing. So then you would go in, and I'm just kind of vaguely explaining kind of how Link works. So you would go in and you would read the story. You would read the actual text of Harry Potter, and it has words highlighted different colors based on whether you've seen the word before, whether you've marked the word as known, all sorts of stuff like that. And so I've started using that again, because it has a larger library of stuff than the other app that I'm going to show you, and it has a library of more complicated stuff, and it's stuff that is like previously published, like just all sorts of things. We have that. There's like a manga in here of some sort. I think it's a manga. It might just be a novel. I'm honestly not sure. But then they also have the simple lessons, which are ones that I have done a little bit, again, since I restarted. But yeah, so I started using that again. And I think one of my original complaints with it was the fact that it relies on instead of like relying on giving you the definition of the word from like an actual dictionary or something like that, it was relying on other people inputting what that word meant and translated to. And for some reason, at the time, I had a real problem with that. I'm not exactly sure why. Again, this was like 4 years ago, I think, that I made that video. It was like 3 or 4 years ago that I made that video. So back in 2019, I was 27. Yeah, 27 at the time. I'm 31. Getting up there in age. I'm going to start seeing gray coming in the beard here anytime. But I actually have gotten to the point where I do actually like Link now, and I like the way that it's set up. I do think the app has been more streamlined in the last few years. So that's one thing. And then the next app is an app called, I might have to wait for it to load. It's an app called Satori Reader. And this one is similar to Link in some ways, but they actually produce their own content, which I also find really nice. They are stories that are longer stories, but they are broken up into very, very short chunks, very, very short episodes, they call them. And so right now I'm reading one, the chapter or the episode is called Mountain Air. But this is a story about like a goat. It's like a supernatural type story. But this one's fun because you can, like, right now it's set to, I don't know why it keeps changing it back, but it's set to all hiragana. And then you can go into the settings and you can change it to standard spelling so that you have all of the kanji on there. And you can change it so that it hides the furigana, so the tiny symbols above the kanji that I've talked about in the Animal Crossing videos. You can hide those, or you can have those there to show the reading. As you advance further, you can also actually set it so that there's an according to my knowledge, there we go, according to my knowledge selection. And if you choose that, then the more words that you learn, like if you tap on a word, it's going to pull up, there we go. It's going to pull up, like this one, Eki, which is a station. Good Lord. There we go. So it's a station, like a train station. And then you can choose to add it. So it shows that it's in my study list. That button would normally say add to study list. And then you can add this context. So you can add different contexts for the words that you can learn in it, how to use the word in different contexts, which is also really cool. But as you're doing that, if you have it set to according to my knowledge, it will update which hiragana to show in kanji as you are going, the more you are studying them and learning them, which is really cool. I choose to have, I don't know why it makes me do this every time. I don't know why it doesn't just leave it the way it's set. I choose to just always have it all in kanji with the furigana, just so I'm getting more exposure to the kanji. And it's really cool because this, there we go, Fujiki Consulting Services, that's what it's called. Let me see if I can go back to, there's the dashboard. I want to see where all the series are. There we go. And so it has this long list of all these different stories. And like some of them are like completely, made up fictional stories. Some of them are not. This one, the Obon Society, is a true thing. It's about they're called close-ups, and that one is about a society called the Obon Society. I don't know exactly what they did or what happened with them. There's some dialogues in here pertaining to different things. There's, Koibito is a thriller. There's the Zama 9 murders, which I think was like a serial killer in Japan at some point. And then they have Kona's Big Adventure, which is one of the ones that they suggest you start out with. So they have just a lot of different stuff on here. So that app is really cool, and that is one, like, kind of this, that along with Link is the secondary stuff that I'm doing. There's another thing that I am kind of doing. I will mostly do it the more that I learn, but I do a little bit of it every once in a while just for fun. But I have these, and I have them over here. I have these mostly so that I don't lose sight of some of the things that I want. Like, yes, I want to be able to watch anime in Japanese and be able to understand it. Largely, I want to be able to, or one of the main things is I want to be able to take a trip over to Tokyo Disneyland, and Tokyo Disney Sea, and be able to converse with the Japanese people there, and be able to have a really good time at Tokyo Disney. Because, again, we are obsessed with Disney parks. You can see all this Disney crap up over my head back here. There's that. There's a lot more up here. We have, I have some Mickey ears over here, like above my head. I have some more somewhere else. Or did they get put up there? Well, there's some Oswald ears over here, right? There. There's some Oswald the Lucky Rabbit ears. I have like 3 Mickey ear hats, along with 2 Mickey ear baseball caps. My wife has like 12 sets of Minnie ears. Like, we love the Disney parks. And that's one of our goals, is to go to the Disney parks in the other countries. the first one, the first one on my list anyway, is Tokyo. I would also like to go to places like Kyoto, Osaka, different places like that. I do want to go to other cities, see maybe some of the temples and things like that. But our main kind of goal is to go to Tokyo Disney. But the other goal besides anime and Tokyo Disney is I want to be able to read some of these things that I have here. And bear with me, I do have quite a few. So I got, and I largely got these first two purposely for the purpose of learning. I didn't necessarily get them because I was like, oh, I want to be able to read those sometime. Well, I kind of did. But it is a manga series called, whoops, wrong way. It's Japanese, wrong way. Yotsuba to. So it's Yotsuba and, which is the story of this little girl who, and I've read the first chapter, or the first chapter of the first one a couple of times. And like translating as I go and, all that good stuff. But it's about this little girl who's moved to a new town with her dad. And it's just kind of their little, it's like a slice of life anime about the like kind of adventures and stuff. It is really, really adorable. There is the nice thing about this one, and one of the reasons it's suggested is that because there is, wrong way, because it is about this little girl, that little girl there, that's Yotsuba, because it's about her, anything that the little kids say, like Yotsuba says, or I think she makes friends with this other little girl, anything that they say is written in hiragana. And then anything that is not written in hiragana, anything that's written in kanji in this, has the furigana with it. And I think that's in large part because it is about a child. So like this is meant, and I don't know if it has the rating on here. Sometimes it'll have kind of a rating, almost like a movie will. No, it doesn't. But I think this was intended for a slightly younger audience. But I have the first three. I had four. The fourth one was in English, so it's still on the shelf back there, but I don't use that one. The other one that I got is Shirokuma Cafe, so it's the Polar Bear Cafe. And this one was another suggested one. Apparently, there's a lot of hiragana in here. There's furigana with everything, and it's supposed to be a very simple but very cute and very like feel-good story, I guess. So I have that one. And then I come to this pile. So I have this pile of books, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. Nope, 7. There's another one over here. I forgot. And these are more like a goal of what I want to read someday. Here's the reason. I have this book. Don't know what it's called. It caught my eye and looked pretty, kind of fascinating. But here's why these are goal books for me. Here's what it looks like. Look at all that Japanese in there. And there is practically no furigana for anything. The only time that they will use furigana in a novel like this is when it's a word that is not... Hey, there's one. Nimpa. Huh. Is when it's a word that is not like a commonly known word. It's one that doesn't come up a lot in regular conversation. It's a niche word. Maybe it's a scientist talking about some sort of scientific thing, a mechanic talking about some, car part or something like that. That's the type of thing that will come up. I also have this one, which is fun. It's literally an origami instruction book on how to make a bunch of different stuff. Like there was a frog. There's a bunch of different, but yeah, you can make a bunch of different origami things. But it's all in Japanese. And then I have, this one here that looked almost like maybe it was like a little bit of a thriller or something. Don't know, because I can't read it. The X-Files. I don't know if this is just an X-Files book. Yeah, it looks like just an X-Files novel. It's not like an X-Files like screenplay or anything like that. It doesn't look like. Yeah, this is an X-Files novel, and I was like, oh, that'd be kind of interesting. There's this Mystic River, which is a Clint Eastwood movie. I don't know if it was originally a book or not beforehand, but it is a book now at the very least. So I have Mystic River. in the Japanese version of Mystic River, so that's fun. And then Just Cause, good old Sean Connery. So I have that one. And then the one that I almost forgot, so that's 6 books there. And then the 7th one is this one here, which literally is just like a book of different, largely a book of different boys and girls' names. That's what this is. But I looked at it and I was like, hey, that seems like it might be kind of interesting anyway. So, and if you're wondering where I got all these books, you can find some of these online, probably. But we have a store here called Second and Charles, and they actually have a really decent foreign language section in their store, and it was really cool. And they always have a bunch of Japanese because those are the ones that sell the least, because people aren't learning Japanese as frequently in my area. I have also bought a bunch of books from there in German, quite a few books in Spanish, one in Italian because I thought it was in Spanish, but it was Italian. Italian's on my list of languages that I want to learn anyway. So, but yeah, so there's my big, let me grab it again. There's my big pile of books that I would like to be able to read in Japanese someday. And that's one of my kind of goals that I'm working towards, you know. Yeah, so like I said, that's kind of how I'm working around my ADHD. Is I'm doing things in different ways, and I'm just kind of changing it up more frequently than I was before. I would change every once in a while before, but not like really. It would mostly be I would just go from using one app to using a different app because I felt like it wasn't working, which will happen. Like you will hit a point where you feel like you're not making any progress, like at all. You'll be like, am I actually learning anything? And it's like, you just have to trust that you are. And my brain struggles with that really bad. I had a long conversation with the wife about this a couple weeks ago, is that my brain struggles so hard. And I don't know, maybe some of you are like this too, but my brain struggles so hard with the idea that I've been studying Japanese for X amount of days or X amount of months, X amount of years, whatever, and I'm still not, I still can't do X, Y, or Z with it. I can't even have a basic conversation, things like that. But you have to, as long as you are buckling down every day and doing the things that are going to help you learn the language, then that's really all that matters, and it is what's going to get you there. And you have to trust that it is working, because if you don't trust that it's working, then you're going to end up like I did, where I've been studying Japanese off and on for the past 8 years now. 8 years. But I've been studying off and on for the past 8 years now and can't hold a basic conversation because I keep falling off the bandwagon, because I get bored with what I'm doing, and even more so, I get discouraged with the fact that I've been studying for let's say 6 months, 6 months straight of doing at least 15, maybe 30, or like 30 minutes a day or something like that. And I didn't feel like I was learning anything. I didn't feel like I could have a conversation. And honestly, you won't hit that point. It takes a while to hit that point. Can you hit it faster? Sure. If you are willing to put in the work to study hours and hours and hours a day, and get on italki or any of those language exchange kind of websites like that. If you're willing to get on there and do those, you are going to make more progress. Or if you're willing to find a language partner or something like that, you are going to make progress in speaking a lot faster. Because one of the things that you start to realize, that I've started to realize, is that when you're spending the time learning like that, you are spending the time in Duolingo or the Japanese from zero or whatever, it will feel like you're not making progress, but then all of a sudden you will go and play a video game in Japanese. You'll watch an anime in Japanese. You'll watch a Japanese TV show like Million Men Women, which is a fun show. And all of a sudden you'll hear something or see something if you're like reading on the screen, and you'll be like, wait, and you'll just read it without thinking half the time, or hear it and translate it in your head without thinking. And all of a sudden you just go, wait, I understood what they said. I know what they said. Like, holy shit. you will hit that point, but only if you trust in this. That like, and you have to trust that those moments are going to happen, because you won't be able to predict when those moments are going to happen, and that's really the big thing. You're you're not going to be able to predict that. It's something that's just going to happen organically, and it has to happen organically. If you are, again, if you're taking the time to learn or taking the time to study the language in a way that works for you, then it will happen. I think the last thing I'll kind of mention here is that going onto YouTube or any of these places, TikTok, any of these social media platforms, and watching videos or contacting people who are polyglots themselves, who are language learners, who are language YouTubers, who specifically try to help people with language learning. I just want to essentially give a word of warning about that. I love a bunch of the polyglots, language tubers, all that. I absolutely love them, and a lot of them are doing great work. But you will tend to, because I know this happened to me, you will tend to fall into a rut of watching videos from everyone from Steve Kaufman, Ollie Richards, Luca Lampariello. God, I can't even remember some of the names of the other ones. Elisa Speaks, all these other ones. You will fall into a hole where you're watching a bunch of their videos and then not studying on your own. And what will tend to happen is that each one of them what you'll notice is that each one of them studies or learns languages in a different way, and they study in a different fashion. Ollie Richards uses, and Steve Kaufman as well, uses stories or reading. Ollie Richards likes to say story because he also likes to use other things besides just reading, if he can. As far as I know, I could be wrong on that, but I believe he does. Steve Kaufman uses Link, which is the program that he created. He uses that to read and listen, and that's how he learns. Luca Lampariello created a system, or came up with a system, where he translates something from the language that it's in, so like German or whatever, back to into his native language, which for him is Italian, or he might translate it to a different language. He knows like 8 languages or something like that, maybe more. But then he will turn around from there and translate it back into German. In the case of the example, I can't remember what he calls it. I don't remember if it's called dual translation. I think it's called dual translation. But like, that's how he does it, rather than just like learning with stories. It could be anything. You could translate whatever you wanted to. There's other people that learn like solely using anime and TV shows. That also works. There's other people that I've come across that use just music. That also works. The problem that I have found with these language tubers is that some of them, not all of them, but some of them will try to tell you that the way that they do it is either the only way that it'll work. That's very rare, but it has happened before. Or they will tell you that this is how it's going to work, or this is the best way to do it, or something along those lines. And I just want to caution people against that, because really there is no one best way to do it. So Ollie Richards is saying like, oh, story learning or learning through story is the best way to learn because what. I agree with him to an extent, but you yourself also have to take into consideration your own likes, dislikes, passions, your own learning methods, the way that you retain information the best, all of that type of thing. People like him like to say, oh, because this is how you would have learned your first language, which in Ollie Richards' case actually is kind of true. It's not fully true, but it is kind of true. When you as a kid are learning a language, you learn based on what you are hearing from everyone else, which a lot of times is stories that are being read to you. So yes, to an extent it is true, but you're also learning other ways. You're learning what a shoe is based on your parents telling you, here, we're going to put on your shoes. And then they put your shoes on. So then you realize, oh, shoe, cool, shoe. And things like that. And so I just wanted to give that kind of word of warning out at the end. don't get into the rut of watching all these language tubers and getting yourself into kind of a, I call it a language depressed state. That's what I like to call it for myself, because you will then stop studying because you think that you're doing it wrong. And if it is working for you and you are able to do it consistently, it is not wrong, regardless of whether it's music, stories, textbooks, etc. Okay. So, with all that being said, if any of you have any questions that you'd like to ask, or anything like that, and again, if you would like to me to make any more videos kind of in this vein, talking about maybe different apps or different things like that, I am willing to do that. I just won't do it unless it is specifically requested to be done. So, I know this was a little bit longer than I originally intended it to be, but I feel like I got across what I needed to get, what I wanted to get across. So, thank you all for joining me, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Again, leave me a comment and let me know how I'm doing. Let me know any questions that you have. And with that, I will see you all later.